Welcome to the Knowledgeably Yours podcast. I'm Kaustav Wagmare, and in this episode, I want to talk about my opinions and thoughts on the application WhatsApp. Stay tuned. WhatsApp is an application that does not need any introduction. If you are an Android user or an iOS user, chances are that you are either currently using WhatsApp or have used WhatsApp at some point of time. Earlier this year, that is in the month of January 2021, WhatsApp introduced a revision to its privacy policy. A privacy policy is a declaration by the company which offers you a service that collects some data from you, telling you what kind of data it will collect, how long will the data be stored, who they will share their data with, and what kind of analysis they will perform on the data, and also what rights, if any, you have over the data about you or from you that is collected by that service. So WhatsApp introduced a revision to its privacy policy in January 2021. It sent out a message to its users that they will have to accept the new privacy policy, and if they did not do so, their services on WhatsApp will be discontinued effective 8th of February 2021. Now, most of the users ended up accepting that policy, but there were those among us who were very cautious, who actually decided to read the privacy policy, ponder over its implications, and then decide whether to accept it or not. Assuming that Elon Musk, the brain behind Tesla and SpaceX, was motivated by the change in the privacy policy, he went on Twitter and put out a 2-word message saying, "Use Signal." And all of a sudden, the number of downloads of the Signal application, which is an alternative to WhatsApp, increased by several thousand%. The news media took notice as well. Every single mainstream news channel was inviting privacy advocates and cybersecurity experts on their show and discussing the implications of the new WhatsApp privacy policy. Infographics were distributed, ironically using WhatsApp and Facebook, informing people about the level of data collection that happens in an application such as WhatsApp. Now, one of the problems with the news media today is that it likes spiking topics and then completely forgetting them. If there is a terrorist attack, it will talk about that terrorist attack for 36 hours, causing tremendous amount of panic and fear among its audience, and then it jumps to a new topic and completely forgets it. There is a chance that we are so used to this behavior of news media that almost everything that is hyped by the media is just considered that, a hype, nothing very serious. And I have a suspicion that the same perception has been created in the minds of the people with regards to the privacy policy update of WhatsApp. Everybody thought that the media had a field day thanks to the tweet given out by Elon Musk, and most of the people that I know continue to use WhatsApp as if nothing happened, as if there are no concerns. Maybe the advertisements that were released by Facebook promising people that they will safeguard their data and assure privacy may have also contributed to this. But there are many other reasons for this. I was personally very happy that Elon Musk sent out that tweet because most of my friends who I was trying to convince to switch to Signal refused to do so. So when I, at some point of time, decided to uninstall WhatsApp and install Signal, it served no purpose because there was nobody on Signal to converse with. And then I started getting phone calls from people thinking that something had happened to me because I was no longer responding to their chats on WhatsApp. But thanks to this media frenzy, so many of my close friends were now on Signal that I could afford once and for all to completely delete WhatsApp from my life. Now, one of the questions to ask is, why? Why should people be worried, if at all, about WhatsApp? Well, let us try and trace the historic roots of WhatsApp. So WhatsApp started out in 2009 and it quickly became a very popular application. However, as it rose in its popularity, there was necessity felt by the creators of WhatsApp to charge people so as to be able to maintain the service. So there was in fact a point of time when you had to pay about $1 or so per year in order to use WhatsApp. Now WhatsApp increased in its user base, everybody was happy, and the number of people using it rose to as high as 400 million around, say, about 2014. And then Facebook came and decided to buy WhatsApp for $19 billion. That's a billion with a B. That is an incredible amount of money. There are certain small countries which, if given $19 billion, could change the conditions of their people overnight. It is an incredible sum of money. So one of the questions that you should ask yourself is, why did Facebook buy WhatsApp for $19 billion? And where would they recover that money from? It's a simple thing. Whenever you buy a business, you do so because eventually you want to earn a profit. So if Facebook bought WhatsApp, eventually they wanted to earn that money back. So what would they do? Common sense dictates that they should actually start charging for WhatsApp. But no, they made WhatsApp free. Then they hired a team of software developers to continue developing WhatsApp. All of a sudden you could make phone calls on WhatsApp. Then the ability to put status updates came in. You could start sharing your live location over WhatsApp. And WhatsApp introduced a feature called as WhatsApp Business, which allowed businesses to directly communicate with its users through WhatsApp. So in a previous era, if you buy a movie ticket, the site on which you bought the movie ticket would email you the tickets, and then you would have to open your inbox and access the tickets. But now they could directly send you the ticket over WhatsApp and without ever involving your inbox. Similarly, an insurance company could send you quotes and revised quotes and eventually the insurance policy over WhatsApp. So it became very convenient and they did not charge anything whatsoever. So imagine that one day you happen to walk on the street and you see this hotel, right? It's not doing great. You talk to the owner of the hotel and he decides to sell you that business. So you put in a lot of money buying it. Then you hire some world-class chefs to increase the variety on the menu. You hire engineers to create a new karaoke system. And you just keep on making the place better and better. And one day you slash the rates of the place to 1/3 or maybe 1/4. Would you do that? Obviously not. Because if you're pouring in so much money into the restaurant or the hotel, then you obviously want to recover that money somehow. If anything, you would actually charge a premium from your new customers in lieu of those extra services. But WhatsApp did not do that. When Facebook bought WhatsApp, it continued to give more and more services while keeping the application free. So you have to really think about this. What exactly is Facebook up to here? $19 billion it invests and keeps on making WhatsApp a better and a more feature-rich application and does not ask for anything in return, or does it? So to appreciate this point, we must go back and ask the question, how does Facebook earn its money? So as you know, Facebook is a social media platform. You can create a free account on Facebook and you have now the potential to connect with almost anyone over Facebook, and it's all for free. Now, you have to understand that Facebook has about 2 billion users. That means the amount of money that Facebook has to spend to maintain the infrastructure which is powering Facebook is incredible. So where is Facebook earning its money? How can it keep Facebook for free? So it's quite simple really. Because it is free, you come voluntarily and you create a Facebook account. You give Facebook your name, you upload a photograph, you tell Facebook where you lived and continue to live, where you were born, which school did you go to, who were your friends in school, and so on. Apart from this static information, you also continue to post messages on Facebook. Some of you like to take photographs of your favorite dishes and put them on Facebook. Some of you use an application to tell the whole world where exactly you're having dinner today. When you go on your vacation, you start putting photographs of your vacation to the whole wide world. If there is a heated political debate on some issue going on, you can't resist but put forth your view. Or if somebody has put a view that you either agree or disagree with, you go and try to comment on it. Now with all of this information available to Facebook, it goes and constructs or derives more information about you. Facebook will be able to tell you whether you are a religious person or not. What kind of a political leaning do you have? Who are your closest friends? Where did you meet them? All of this information can be processed and constructed by Facebook to a point where it is accurately able to tell whether you are the best possible next customer for the great camera that is going to get released or any other product. Are you someone who actually likes weird t-shirts? Or are you someone who is into formals? What kind of a person you are and what kind of products are you willing to buy? So if there is a company which is launching a new product or already has an existing product and are looking for more customers, they go to Facebook, they agree to pay a certain amount of money to Facebook, and Facebook in turn agrees to find the exact set of people who are likely to buy their products and show them advertisements. And that is how Facebook earns its money. The more customers Facebook can generate for a company, the more charges they can levy on that particular company. And thus, Facebook will continue to encourage you to put out as much information as possible on Facebook, because the more information you put on Facebook, the better the algorithms of Facebook are able to profile you, the better and more accurately they are able to predict as to what kind of a person you are, what kind of products are you willing to buy. And you have to appreciate that this is not just products. If there is a politician who wishes to run an election campaign, Facebook will help find for the right price the correct audience for that political campaign. The possibilities are limitless. Now, up to this point, it seems like all is fair. Facebook is giving a fantastic service. We are sharing a bit of data and Facebook is using that data to give us advertisements and earn some money in the process. It seems like a very straightforward arrangement until it is not. Because it's not just advertisements, but Facebook has demonstrated that it is also willing to share information, not share, but sell information about you to a third party without too many questions as to how that third party is going to use that data. So for the right price, your data is directly for sale and not just being used to give you or show you better advertisements. This is what Facebook does. This is how Facebook earns money. So the takeaway here is that Facebook has a vested interest in collecting more and more data so as to profile you better and better. Right? Because that's the basic trade of Facebook. They trade in information about you. With this understanding, it is now very clear as to why Facebook bought WhatsApp for whole $19 billion. So, you sign up for a WhatsApp account using your phone number. When you are on Facebook, Facebook continuously urges you to give your phone number to them. It says, what if you forget your password and you're not able to sign into your account? You don't want that. Why don't you share your phone number with us, and we will assure you that even in the misfortunate event or unfortunate event that you are not able to sign into your account, we will be able to send you a password reset option on your phone. It gives you all these temptations, and eventually you share your phone number with Facebook. So you have a WhatsApp account, you have a phone number there. You have a Facebook account, you have a phone number there. It is trivially easy for Facebook to understand which person on WhatsApp has created which profile on Facebook. They take all the information that is available on Facebook. They take all the information which is available on WhatsApp. They connect the two and they have even more information than they ever had about you. That is the primary interest. So why did Facebook introduce this WhatsApp business feature? Because you now start interacting with businesses on WhatsApp and Facebook is able to track that information about you. Who is your insurance provider? When did you last buy your insurance? Did you buy a movie ticket? Are you going for a vacation somewhere? On and on it goes. So in 2015, when Facebook bought WhatsApp, that is when the alarm bells had already started to ring for many of us who were very cautious about Facebook's ability or respect in terms of handling your data. But for some reason back then there was no Elon Musk to encourage people to move away from WhatsApp. So people continued to use WhatsApp. But we should have moved away from WhatsApp several years ago, and not just because Elon Musk may have encouraged the use of WhatsApp a couple of months ago in Jan 2021. Right? So when Facebook bought WhatsApp, they made it optional for the users. They said, do you want to share your information with Facebook? You could say yes or you could say no. If you've already said yes, then it's a non-issue. You're screwed anyway. Your information has already started going to Facebook. But now Facebook says, let's not keep it optional. Let us make it compulsory for every WhatsApp user to link with Facebook, to share information with Facebook and its sister concerns. So in January 2021, they roll out a new privacy policy where they say, we will take your information and now make it a part of Facebook. We will share your information with all our affiliates. So if there's a company who wants to know what your WhatsApp usage pattern is, in principle, we are willing to sell it to them. So they've made it compulsory. Of course, when the media became angry and everybody was jumping away from WhatsApp and downloading either Signal or Telegram, they backed off. And they said, we will postpone the date on which you will have to accept the new privacy policy. So the date now is May 15th, 2021, which at the time of recording this podcast is fast approaching. So that's the game Facebook is playing. It has now given you a warning that it will link your WhatsApp information with your Facebook information. It will collect information such as the phone from which you are calling, the location from where you log into WhatsApp, who do you talk to, and so on and so forth. But a lot of people are not convinced. Why? Because Facebook rolls out this very large advertisements in the newspapers as well as sends out a message on WhatsApp itself saying that we respect your privacy. Your messages are private. Your groups are private. Don't worry. We are taking care of your privacy. Your privacy is very important to us, and everybody is buying it. But let's understand. Imagine that your communication is in the form of a letter. The letter is put in an envelope, and the envelope goes from the sender to the receiver. So what Facebook is saying here is, we cannot read your letter. We promise you that we cannot read your letter. That's it. But what Facebook does not tell you is that everything on the envelope is available for Facebook to read. Facebook is able to read your address, your name. If you're sending it to someone, who is that person? Where do they stay? What is their address? Everything is on the envelope, and Facebook is able to see this information. But you don't send one letter, you send many letters. So Facebook collects information about all the letters, not the contents of the letters. Your letter is safe. Whatever you've written on the letter is safe, but everything on the envelope is now being used by Facebook. How frequently do you write your letters? Think of it, messages, right? How frequently do you message? Who do you message to? Who is your closest contact? Whom did you call? How long did you speak to them? This is called metadata. So the actual messages and the actual contents of your conversation is data, and data is what is called end-to-end encrypted. This is a way of saying that Facebook does not have a way of reading that information. But the metadata, that is the data about who you send the message to, how frequently, etc. What are the common groups that you have? What are the businesses that you interact with? All this information is available for Facebook to study and do with it whatever it pleases. And this is a concern, especially because Facebook has demonstrated in the past that it doesn't care about your privacy. One after the other, Facebook has landed itself in a scandal where it has been accused of not treating the data of its users responsibly. If you don't believe me, you can go to YouTube and search for Mark Zuckerberg's Senate hearing. And there are plenty of occasions where Mark Zuckerberg, the man behind Facebook, was asked to appear in front of a congressional committee and was questioned about how they used the data that they collected on Facebook. It is a given. No doubt about it. Now there are plenty of people who look at me, who listen to all these explanations of that I use to justify deleting WhatsApp, and they say, you know what, Kaustubh, we don't have anything to hide. Maybe you do, but we don't have anything to hide. That is a stupid argument. It is not about whether you have something to hide. It is about how the person uses the information against you. You may not know how that will be used, either directly, indirectly, consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, we do not know. But the problem is that you, as a matter of principle, should decide to which group of people you are an open book and to which group of people you are not an open book. Yes, you have nothing to hide, but doesn't mean that you go and tell every single person out there what you are up to. No, you don't have to. So another example I could give you is, imagine that you are in your house and what happens in your house is private. Are you walking with your clothes on, or are you walking completely naked? Who are you talking to? What are the contents? Most of the times doesn't leave your house. But now imagine that there is a person standing outside your house. He or she is not able to see what's happening inside the house, but they are paying attention. The moment you leave the house, they will note down what time did you leave the house. If there is a milkman coming to your house and delivering milk, they are noting down the name of the delivery boy, they are noting down the brand of the milk that you're buying, and so on. Let's say you have a family. They know who all are in your family. When do they leave the house? What is the school to which your daughter goes? When does she come back? What car do you have? How often do you come out? So on and so forth. All of this, by the way, is metadata. It is outside the house. And I'm sure many of you will agree that it is uncomfortable a thought that somebody is sitting outside your house and while not invading the privacy of your house is still keeping track of every movement of every person in your house, outside your house, so long as it's happening outside. So that's the level of information collection that Facebook does on you. And even if for a brief moment I say that it's okay, let it collect the information, maybe this information will be used to protect us, maybe it will give us better services. But I assure you that if there was any other company, I could have accepted the argument. But given Facebook's overall irresponsibility, a lack of consistency in how it respects your privacy, at least Facebook as a company doesn't deserve so much of power over your life. It's as simple as that. And it is for this reason that the day Facebook bought WhatsApp, I started telling people we need to find alternatives. Then a couple of years later, when we had a matured ecosystem of alternatives to WhatsApp, we had Telegram, we had Signal, I started telling people, let's move, but they did not listen. And finally, I could delete WhatsApp because it was very easy to do so. Because I could start communicating on Signal. And you know what the funny thing is? The funny thing is that the news media has stopped covering this issue in any appreciable way. And people have thought that everything is solved. It isn't. Today, Facebook has said, you will accept this privacy policy or you will not be able to use WhatsApp. And they are saying, we will not show you advertisements. We are only collecting your data. We are using it to give better services and so on. And people are saying, you know what? I'm not going to delete WhatsApp because every single person is on WhatsApp. 2 billion people are on WhatsApp. So why should I leave WhatsApp? How will I take those 2 billion people and migrate to another application? Well, today you are arguing on the basis of 2 billion. Tomorrow, Facebook is going to acquire, say, 3 billion people to use WhatsApp. Then it will become even harder. And once Facebook has the guarantee that when we were 2 billion strong, we could not be stopped. Now we are 3 billion strong. There is no way we will be stopped. So let's introduce another privacy policy revision and say we will now do something even more intrusive, even more disrespectful of your privacy. What will you do in such a case? Now it's even harder to leave WhatsApp because now even more people are connected with you on it. So there is no better time than now to abandon WhatsApp and head out to an alternative. And what is even more important is you're not giving up any convenience because Signal has more or less the same features as WhatsApp, except for a few features. And there is a reason why Signal does not have those features. It's simple. Because if it gives you those features, it will have to cut a few corners and compromise on your privacy. And Signal's motivation is simple. To give you the most secure and private communication application. And of course, there were jokes on this too. There was a friend of mine who posted on his social media channel that Zuckerberg is going to buy Signal. Well, let me tell you something. Signal cannot be bought. Because Signal is not a company. It is a non-profit organization and therefore cannot by definition be bought. Second, there is no one single location on earth where all the information about Signal's users is stored. No, it is a collection of many servers around the world, decentralized, communicating and relaying messages. So let's imagine for some reason that a particular country, for lack of better ideas, let's take America. Let's say that the United States of America decides that they want to shut down Signal. They'll be able to locate some handful of servers operating within the United States of America, and they'll say, you know what, give us all the information. First of all, Signal does not collect any information, so even if the servers of Signal in United States of America are tapped by the US government, there is nothing to gain from there. Number one. Number two, they'll say, let's shut down Signal. They'll shut down the servers, but Signal doesn't depend on those servers. Signal has many servers around the world run by many volunteer organizations, and they will continue to work and serve you. That's it. And very importantly, Signal is open source, meaning that the exact source code or the programs that power Signal are available for anyone to see. All you need to do is learn a bit of programming, download the source code of Signal and analyze it for yourself. What Signal is doing, what it isn't doing. And for those of you who are saying it's too much trouble to move to Signal, well, whatever 3 or 4 steps you had to take in order to reach or register yourself on WhatsApp, the same exact steps need to be done with Signal too. You have to download the Signal application. You have to give it your phone number. You will receive an OTP to verify your phone number, and that's it. You can start using Signal. We all have very fancy notions of doing or celebrating certain kinds of days. For example, there is one day on which everybody says, at 9 o'clock today we will all shut down our lights, so that if the satellite takes an image of Earth, there should be no lights visible, it should be in perfect darkness. Very noble idea. So we are willing to spend 5 minutes in complete darkness on certain days. But let's also organize something else. Why 5 minutes switching off the light? There are people who on World Yoga Day did coordinated yoga for half an hour all across the world. So if you want to send a message to Facebook and say that enough of your data collection greed and your privacy invasion tactics, all you have to do is organize a WhatsApp to Signal Day. On that day at exactly specific time, everybody will take their phones, download Signal, punch in their phone number, verify, come on Signal. As soon as this is done, the next step is go to WhatsApp, delete your account, uninstall WhatsApp. Then it takes a couple of hours. To reconstruct your groups and so on. There's a bit of inconvenience, but you would have said bye-bye to WhatsApp forever. It is as simple as that, not hard at all. Right? So, anyone who says that they are not able to move away from WhatsApp because there are too many people there, because they are highly dependent on WhatsApp for communication, I think it is just sheer laziness. In my very strong and personal opinion, it is pure laziness. But I am not an extremist. I am not going to conclude this podcast by saying delete WhatsApp or else, because I am not Facebook. I don't give ultimatums, and who am I to give ultimatum to begin with? For that matter, who is Facebook to give us an ultimatum? But fine, they are doing it. But let me at least conclude with some helpful piece of advice. I want you to think of yourself as user of one kind or the other. You are a user who has always and will continue to use WhatsApp for personal communication. If you are such a user, I'll be very honest and I will tell you, you have no reason and no motivation to be on WhatsApp. Just install Signal, encourage your friends and your groups to migrate to Signal. It will take about a day's worth of time, much lesser than that, and you will have a normal life on Signal. But if you are someone like a salesperson who has clients with whom you have to interact over WhatsApp, I suggest taking a two-step approach. Install Signal, start using Signal for your private and personal communication. If there are personal contacts who have not migrated to Signal, encourage them to do so. Continue being available on WhatsApp in case your clients, your customers, or your colleagues demand that you share some information with them on WhatsApp, but migrate your personal communication completely to Signal. It is worth it. If you ask me for a concrete evidence as to the exact immediate danger of not doing so, I will not be able to tell you. But I just remind you of that famous parable of the frog in the boiling water. If the water boils very slowly, the frog doesn't care and continues to be in the water and eventually gets cooked. I feel that with the dangerous trend that Facebook has demonstrated, where it has slowly and surely shown that it doesn't care about you and your privacy, and all it cares about is generating profits at the expense of sharing your data with anyone willing to pay the right price, I only foresee Facebook becoming worse and worse. And it is for this reason that I am a very strong advocate of moving away from WhatsApp and moving to Signal. Let us not be the frogs who continue to be in water that gets slowly heated. Let us not be those frogs which do that. I hope the information and the message that I tried to put out there has reached you, has been useful to you, and I invite you once again to seriously consider an open source decentralized alternative to WhatsApp. We don't owe anything to Facebook. We don't need to be enslaved to their products. Let us liberate ourselves and ensure that our information is as private as we can possibly achieve in today's day and age. It was a pleasure talking to all of you, and thank you for listening to me. I wish that your day goes well. Goodbye.